All right, Bob Beers is the. He doesn't have to deal with Tangway. He is the Bruins color analyst on the 98.5 The Sports Bruins Radio Network. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Of course, the Bruins 5-1 over the Panthers last night. Hi, Bob.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Bob? Good.
Do you hear how complimentary of you I am? Does that ever get back to you how complimentary of you I am?
Not normally, no.
Oh, what you couldn't piggyback my compliments? Well, I'll tell you.
I appreciate it.
You did it again last night, and I'll tell you why. I watched the first period, then I had to take my kids to the mother's house. It was that time, and so I was in the car, and I like hearing you. I put you guys on in between periods. I like hearing your analysis, and you said Bobrovsky, even though it was nothing, and to me, the layman, it looked like he was making some good saves. You said he looked a little off. He didn't look like himself. Am I saying that correctly? What was your thoughts of him?
Yeah, I mean, part of that's his style anyhow. He doesn't necessarily make some of the conventional saves that maybe you see some other goaltenders make, but he's a very good goaltender. I thought the entire Florida Panther team was a little bit off last night. But, yeah, there were a couple awkward saves in the first period. I thought he was lackadaisical going back to play a couple pucks. Almost, came back to hurt him in the first period. And, the Bruins kept pushing, and eventually they broke through. So I thought he was good, early, but not like efficient, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I thought that there were some awkward moments for him in the first.
Is there a book on him? Because it seemed like they went high on him for all their goals, unless I'm mistaken. Is there like a book on how to beat him? And if there is, would that concern you if you're the Panthers?
Well, there's definitely a book on him. I mean, that's they've got a book on every goaltender that's going to play. The Bruins didn't lose last year's series because they couldn't score on Bobrovsky. Just look at the goals that they scored. I mean, he scored 5 goals in Game 6. You should win a hockey game, right?
Yeah.
And win the series. And they end up losing 6-5. So that wasn't the reason that they lost. He was pretty good when he came in relief of Lyon last year in the playoffs, and he got better as the playoffs went on. And I think he's been good so far in this year's playoff. But the Bruins, they found a way. I break yesterday down as Florida's known for their forechecking and causing turnovers and getting their scoring chances that way. And the Bruins had, 2 or 3 goals off of good forechecks. And they could have had chances for more. I mean, Pastrnak walked in alone. That was off of a turnover on a good forecheck. So the Bruins did a nice job in that area, and they took advantage and, got to the net and had a couple nice finishes. Lohrei's finish was great. Carlo's finish was really good. Ekblad was screening him, though. So you get 5 different goal scorers. You have 2 rookies that score. You have 2 defensemen that score. That's encouraging moving forward.
Well, Fred's right, Bob. You see the ice. You see the game. You called the game winner against Toronto before it happened, and pointed out that that Pastrnak was there. Did you also see the too many men on the ice last night? Because it was absolutely fascinating watching the replay of it. It wasn't. To me, when I saw the replay, I'm like, oh, that wasn't a sloppy change. They literally had one too many players playing hockey.
Yeah, there's different ways to get too many men on the ice, right? I mean, we were talking about that. Sometimes a guy hops over the boards and he just, he wants to get into the play so badly he plays the puck before the guy going off is physically on the bench, and that happens. That stuff happens. Those are kind of like brain cramps, right? But this one was, 6 guys on the ice. Easy call for the referees. The problem is, guys, is that they've been nabbed for this now 4 times, and each time is a little bit different. And it's not always the same situation. But last night, obvious 6 guys on the ice, and referees got it right. Unfortunately for the Bruins penalty killing, they've been so good. With the help of their goaltender, they've been so good on the PK. It didn't come back to hurt them, but they've got to clean that up. There's no question.
Whose responsibility on the bench is it to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, I've been in plenty of those situations, right? It's always going to fall on the coach, especially when there's 6 guys that are out there, but it's not necessarily the coach. Guys have their assignments. They know who they're jumping out for. Sometimes you get a little confused if somebody's going to hop off the ice, but he actually stays on, and you've already gone on the ice. But so there are different situations. Sometimes it falls on the players, but ultimately the coach is going to, he's going he's going to catch the heat for it. We'll do an interview with Jim Montgomery tomorrow before the game, and that's definitely one of the questions I'm going to ask him about, why is this happening so much and how do you clean it up? But there's different ways that it happens, and all four of them have been a little bit different.
You were in the NHL. You were an NHL player when you were Mason Lohrai's age. I think he's 23 years old. And to watch him play, not only at the end of the Toronto series, but last night, he looks like he's growing up right in front of us. I mean, you can identify with what he's going through.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot of upside. There's no question. He's tall. He's like 6'5". He's kind of, he's lanky, so he's got a good reach. He can skate. I think that's one of his best assets. He's offensively. He's got a lot of, IQ offensively. Whether it's coming through the neutral zone and making a play, whether it's in the offensive zone, you see the shot that he had. That was after a good pitch that he had down the boards. I think one with him that they're still trying to work on is to make sure that he's a little bit more firm or stronger in certain areas. Whether it's defending along the wall, whether it's defending in front of the net, whether it's making a play with the puck, making sure it's not a soft play, making sure it's a harder play. So that's still an area that's a work in progress with him. But you can see, the way that he skates and the way that he moves, and the confidence, and the coaches, talking to them, that he really, he wants to learn. He wants to learn. He's, he takes everything in, and that's a good sign moving forward. Yeah, a guy that can, skate like that and make plays like that offensively, great. And when he's playing with that confidence, that's big. But there are still some areas that they stay on him about to make sure that he's, harder and firmer in certain areas.
For us and for everybody, every fan, who's playing in goal for the Bruins has been a topic of conversation. Obviously, like with the short rest, we weren't sure if it was going to be Ullmark or Swayman last night. Now that Swayman's been so good for so long, is the whole, short of something bad happening, is the whole tandem goalie thing kind of out the window in your opinion?
I try to read between the lines when you hear Jim Montgomery talk, and it's not because it's every other day, right? So they had some breaks in between the Toronto series, but then you have one day off in between Game 7 and Game 1, and it's every other day now up until Game 5 or 6, I believe. My gut, and this is just me, I see Ullmark playing tomorrow, if not Game 3 when the Bruins come back home. I see him playing in one of those. It's hard to go to him right now with the way that Swayman's playing. There's no question, but I just see, you don't want in a situation where Swayman plays some games. All of a sudden, you start to see some leaks, and then you got to throw Ullmark in Game 7, and he hasn't played in weeks because we saw that last year. So I do believe, and it's just my feeling. I could be completely wrong, but I believe that you're going to see Ullmark either in 2 or 3.
And that's what you would do? That's if Bob Beers is coach of the Bruins and you have this goaling tandem.
I think so.
Okay.
You've got 2 great goaltenders. And Swayman's been awesome, right? I mean, how many games in a row has he allowed 2 or less goals? It's since he's been in there, he's been outstanding. But I just when they're playing every other day and there's really no breaks until later in the series where you have 2 days off, I think that they're going to go to Ullmark either Game 2 or Game 3. But that's just an opinion.
Of course. I don't think you're talking to Montgomery. You're probably talking to Montgomery. I don't think he's telling you, or you would share that on the air. I think you're safe. Right. I think the audience gets it. Our audience isn't the brightest, but I think they do get that. They don't give me a chance to explain. I know I'm ripping off an impression. All right. So, and that's what you would do. Jim Montgomery. Credit for the timeout last night. Can you take us through that as a hockey mind when he called timeout, the effects of that, and what you felt about that whole thing?
Yeah, key part of the game, right? It's 3-1. The Bruins took that penalty. I think it was holding the stick on Lindholm in front of the net. So you got to kill that penalty. Kachuk has a great chance to score. The first, 5 or 6 minutes of that third period, I think that there were 10 or 11 shots against them. The ice was tilted. Florida was coming. The curious thing is, though, he took the timeout with just over 14 minutes to go. So if you're Jim Montgomery and you wait, there's always a commercial timeout that lasts for a minute and a half under 14 minutes. The first whistle under 14 minutes, as long as it's not an icing. So he could have waited, and he he would have had a minute and a half to bring everybody over and talk. But he said nope, he wasn't. He couldn't watch it anymore. He took the timeout. Good on him because the players reacted. They reacted the right way, and right after that, Brazo scores. So, and that was their second shot of the period, right? Pasternak's breakaway was the first shot of the period, and but good on Montgomery. He said he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait for that TV timeout because if Florida kept pushing the way that they were going to break through, and that game was going to be 3-2 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So critical moment in the game, definitely. But give the players credit for responding, but Montgomery and his staff for making that call and getting the right message across.
And just real quickly, Bob, as good as the goaltending was and the secondary scoring was there last night, you concerned at all about sequences like that one that led to the timeout, the 11 shots that Florida got off in the first 5 minutes? There was another stretch in the second period where they had 7 shots in a row on net. Does any of that concern you going into game 2?
No, I mean that Florida's a really good team. It's going to happen.
Okay. It's
going to happen. It's just how you handle it. How much of it to keep on the outside? How many grade A chances do you give up? And then do you have your momentum swings like that, right? Mm-hmm. You have to push. I was really impressed with what the Bruins did up the ice and forcing Florida into errors last night. So I think both teams are going to have momentum pushes. I think Florida's going to be, they had 38 shots or 39 shots, whatever the final was, but I do think some of that was, like you just said, kind of concentrated into early third, some early first. I think after 2 periods, the shots were essentially even.
Okay.
So it was just that they got inflated a little bit early in the third period, which led to the timeout. So, but I think you're going to have to deal with that throughout the series because Florida is they're a good hockey team. You got 2 good teams going at it, and both teams are going to have to go through that.
All right, Bob Beers, they out there in Plantation, Florida, or Sunrise, Florida, wherever the hell it is.
Playing golf today.
Yeah, he's got to be playing golf today.
Are you playing golf today, Bob Beers?
Let's just say I'll be outside.
All right. It's either that or tanning, because again, as we know,
never going to catch Berkeley.
Bob Beers always has a tan.
Yep.
He has one. He travels with one of those folding mirrors.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's out there by the pool. It's like an '80s movie.
Cool.
All right, Bob Beers, you're the best. You guys do a tremendous job. Thank you so much for the time.
We appreciate it, guys. Thanks,
Bob.
Take care,
Bob Beers. If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Bruins analysis and opinion, hit this playlist.